episode of Fl'AwesomeBlossom. I am your host, Cassiopeia Fleur de la Flores, but please do call me Kiki. All right, my best buds and my wildflowers, I am very pleased to see you here. Thank you so much for joining us. I do appreciate you. And if you don't know what I'm talking about when I'm saying that, well, why don't you check out the website? We've got some membership options for you there. And if you choose to become a member, there are some extra special bonus features for paying members. So I do hope that you will join our blossoming and blooming community. If you are watching us on YouTube, then please hit that like button. Please hit that subscribe button. And you know what? Why don't you share this? Why don't you share this with someone you love? Why don't you share this with someone you're annoyed at? Why don't you share this with somebody who you think needs a little bit of whimsy? That would be amazing for everybody. All right, we're going to get into today's episode. And today here at Fl'AwesomeBlossom, we are definitely acknowledging what it takes to become a fully rounded human being. We are all about accepting our flaws, working on our flaws, and acknowledging our flaws. And we have a couple to acknowledge. All right. First off, we're going to talk about the fact that in the episode where I discuss my name, Cassiopeia, and we tell her story, I mentioned Perseus, and I unfortunately, you know what? I get his lineage wrong. I guess Cassiopeia, the queen of Ethiopia, her and I have this in common. I got it wrong. In my defense, in our collective Cassiopeia defense, there's a lot going on with Zeus and Poseidon. They got around a lot. They begot a lot of kids. So, yes, I made an error, and Zeus is not the father of Perseus. And I don't think Zeus will be insulted to be thought of as the father of Perseus, because honestly, as heroes go, Perseus is up there. He's a demigod and a hero. And we all love a reluctant hero. And Perseus is among one of the most reluctant of the heroes. But he's a really good guy. And he marries Andromeda. And she's amazing. And they don't just marry like right off the bat, right after he rescues her. No. He gets over that initial lust when he is flying by on Pegasus and he sees this beautiful woman beckoning to him. He gets over his lust. He gets over the trauma bonding that would have happened when during the rescue of Andromeda. He gets over that and he falls in love with her for the amazing person that she is. And guess what? She really is amazing. She's got it all. She's got beauty. She's got brains. And after she hooks up with Perseus, you know, she knew she got herself into that pickle being tied up to the rocks. So once she hooks up with Perseus, she works on her brawn. Yeah, so she is the entire package. She's amazing. We'll talk about her story another time. But basically, her and Perseus were a formidable couple, and they are amazing. And that is why they are immortalized in our night sky as constellations. All right, moving on. The next Fl'Awesome thing that happened was actually just last episode. And, my star sisters and we had a conversation after I posted the episode last week. And I made a poor judgment call. I admit this. So there's a section where I'm talking about a muscle that is attached to the coccyx, and it moves this little bone out of the way so we can poop better. And I mentioned that the name of the muscle is the pudendal muscle, but that's not true. And I knew it wasn't true when I said it. What I was kind of hoping to do there was, I said, look it up. And I was kind of hoping that people would, in fact, take a moment to look up pudendal and find out what it is. And I knew that if you typed it in, that it would come up that it was a nerve, and that it would list the muscles and the sensory area that it innervates. So we had a conversation that wasn't right. I'm not supposed to trick you into learning anything. And from now on, I promise to just give you the straight up goods. Okay? There's no tricksy going on here. We're gonna get into just the facts, Jack. All right. So, great. pudendal is a nerve, and it innervates a couple of muscles. Just so you know, the muscles of the pelvic floor are almost always named based on the structures that the muscles are attached to. And, you got to think about our body. Our muscle structures are a series of pulleys and levers, right? So coccygeus is the name of the muscle that actually attaches to the coccyx and moves it out of the way. The pudendal nerve also innervates levator ani. And I know that sounds a little bit like a Harry Potter spell, levator ani, but let's just logic this one out. Let's put our logic brain on for a moment and let's think about that word levator. Have we heard that before? Yeah, we've heard that. Elevator, right? What do we know what that does? It's a magic box and it goes up and it goes down. But originally it was designed to go up. So levator means to elevate, to move upwards. Levator ani. And ani is plural for anus. That helps us with defecation, but we can control that one. You can pull up on your anus right now. And it also helps in pinching off when we're having difficulty with defecation. It can help with that. So why am I going down this rabbit hole of the pudendal nerve and all this? Well, because we're going to talk a little bit about menopause today, tiny bit. So, the pudendal nerve, we know where it is, right? The location of it is deep down in our pelvic bowl there, right? In and around the anus. And we don't think about this nerve until it becomes a major problem, where either it's numb and we don't feel it, so we actually don't think about it, or it's not, and it's giving us a real pain in the ass. And please know when I say pain in the ass, I want you to know that I'm being very specific with that location. It's not a general pain in the gluteal area. It's not your piriformis muscle, whose nerve, and that's the nerve to piriformis, that's its actual name, that nerve pierces the muscle. It goes right through that muscle. And when your piriformis muscle gets very tight, it can pinch that nerve itself. It pinches its own nerve and gives you a pain in the butt. That's not the nerve. That's not the butt I'm talking about. I'm not talking about cheek pain. No. Where's that pudendal nerve? Right by our anus. I am talking that specific doorway of pain. Okay? Now, the pudendal nerve has an opportunity for damage, and it's almost always during a childbirthing situation. It can have damage in one of two ways. It can go numb, in which case it's a little bit less good for defecation, going to the bathroom. But it's sad. It's sad because that pudendal nerve has two jobs. It is a motor nerve, and it sends the electric signals to levator ani for it to move, and for the coccygeus to move as well. So it's a motor nerve, but it has a secondary function as a sensory nerve. So that means it can tell us what's going on the exterior skin, the exterior of the genitals, the anus, and the very top of our thighs, like right exactly where your thigh meets your pubic bone. Like exactly there. And that one if that pudendal nerve becomes numb, then sex is a whole lot less fun, because that sensory nerve is shut off and it's no longer giving you the signals to your brain, the pleasure signals. And another area that pudendal nerve innervates is the clitoris. That's a part of the sensory nerve endings of the pudendal nerve. So if that's numb, it's less fun. It's a whole lot less fun. Like, wow. Now there is a backup nerve. Okay, like remember I talked about this. We talked about our bodies being absolutely awesome and occasionally flawsome, but this is a good system. This is a good backup system. So our nerve that comes out of our lumbar spine at the level of L1 also innervates the exterior muscles or the exterior skin rather of our genitals and our low abdomen to the first 1/3 of our thigh. So it's got a backup system, but it doesn't have that direct contact. That L1 nerve, it goes kind of close to the neighborhood of the clitoris, but it doesn't knock on her front door. Okay, so pudendal nerve damage is just bad news bears. It's just terrible. If it's gone numb, it's so unfun. And if it hasn't gone numb, then the other signal it gives is pain, right? And we talked about where that is. Now, the good news here, this is very good news, is that when that nerve gets damaged, it doesn't often send continual pain signals about the skin. It's usually just, unfortunately, the muscles. But in this way, it's a little bit better, because could you imagine having this pudendal nerve impinged as a woman, and for weeks, months, or however long it is impinged, you have pain in your entire pelvic girdle and in your clitoris? Like, that's not great. That's awful. So thank you, designer, for not having that happen. Or it's very rare that happens when the pudendal nerve is impinged. Normally, it sends pain signals to the anus. And do you know when and there's another time that this happens for women, not just in childbirth, not just from a traumatic birthing experience. And P.S., this birthing experience I'm talking about is usually what they call a back birth. So when the baby is exiting the birth canal, it's coming down the mom, and it's putting so much pressure on her lower spine, the lower segments of her lumbar spine, and scraping down her her sacrum and the coccyx. And so sometimes the coccyx breaks. Yeah, sometimes the tip of that bone breaks off during childbirth. Not often, but sometimes. And I can imagine in that scenario that the pudendal nerve is like really effed up in that situation. So, but here's another crazy scenario where women are getting the shorthand of the physical stick here. Unfortunately, the pudendal nerve rears its ugly head. Oh, I shouldn't say it's an ugly head. Poor pudendal nerve. What I mean is it makes itself known in the most noxious of ways during perimenopause. What? Yes, it does. When you go through perimenopause and our hormone levels are fluctuating, and usually it's a steady drop, and then there's like some incremental drops, like sudden drop-offs of estrogen. These affect the optimal function of our sphincters. And most notably, I think a lot of women will understand this. A lot of women between the ages of like 36 to like 56, maybe. The first one that really starts to malfunction, or that we notice malfunctioning, is our the sphincters that are associated with our urine, our passing of urine, so our urethra sphincters. And these are the ones that urine passes through. We have an internal and external, and we can control it, right? We can do our Kegels, we can pull up, we can stop our urine from coming out, we can close that sphincter off. And this is important for women to keep up a really good pelvic floor health, not just after you have had a child, but your whole life. We should be teaching young girls how to take care of their pelvic floor from the beginning so that by the time they get into their childbirthing years and are having childbirth, are experiencing that, their muscles are ready for this. Like they're good to go. She already has an idea of how to retrain her body after childbirth. And it helps when you're going through menopause, because honestly, I should have been doing pelvic floor work before I had symptoms of leakage, right? And that's what we normally get. We get a little bit of leakage. You have to prepare yourself for a sneeze, right? You got to cross your legs. Some of us who are a little chubby, I don't know about you, like I've got a bit of an abdomen. I've got a little bit of a pooch hanging down. And that's weight directly on my bladder. If you think about where our low abdomens are, where our bladder is situated, that weight is right on that organ. So if I'm going to sneeze, yeah, you betcha, I'm going to scoop down, pick up that little pooch, cross my legs, and hope to God I don't piss myself. But yeah, it happens. This is happening. So estrogen plays a role in the health and the optimal function of our sphincters. So we notice it first with our bladder, and we leak a little bit, and we can build that back up with pelvic floor exercises. Unfortunately, the other sphincter that gets affected by our estrogen dropping is the anal sphincter. And it does not result in necessarily the numbness of our genital area. No, not that. And it doesn't really interfere with our sensation of like, oh, there's something pressing and I really do need to go to the bathroom and defecate. No, it does the other thing that nerves can do. So instead of going numb, it gets excited. And it doesn't excite the sensory, it doesn't excite the skin of your genitals. It zaps you right in your anus. It sends an electrical signal, Bzzzt, to levator ani. Because we are electrical beings. P.S. Have you ever read or have had someone read to you Walt Whitman's The Body Electric? Ooh, I might post it. We might do it. Maybe later. But anyway, we are electric beings, and this is how our nervous system works. It is electricity. It is an electrochemical response. Starts in our brain, goes down our spinal column, and out into the nerve endings. So during menopause, you can expect to get some, what they call in the textbooks, altered nerve sensation. That's what they write in the textbook. That is what men have written in medical textbooks. And I gotta tell you, altered nerve sensation is the watered down diplomatic letter. Okay? Remember we talked about that in an episode before? We talked about how Hawaii had to write, and they're like, hello, dear Portugal, we have cows. That's not how the letter wrote. It wasn't how it was written. Absolutely not. It was done with flowery diplomatic letters, like writing rather, words. And this textbook is written in flowery words, and it's trying to educate healthcare professionals. Well, you know what? That's great. But altered nerve sensation does not clearly express the cattle prod to the anus that you're going to experience going through perimenopause. And I just had this happen to me. So also, P.S., about a year ago, someone in my very close monkey sphere had approached me and said, oh my gosh, have you got the cattle prods yet? Her and I are both going through perimenopause. And we'd been commiserating about some of our symptoms, right? And she's like, have you had the cattle prod yet? And I said, cattle prod? And she's like, oh, I know you haven't, just by the way that you're answering me. If you don't know what I'm talking about with the cattle prod, then you don't know. And wait till you get there. And I'm like, tell me. And she's like, oh, just wait for it. I'm like, what? Oh my gosh. Well, ladies and gentlemen, my precious petals, my blooming blossoms, my curious crocuses, my darling dahlias. This happened just last weekend for me. I was out on a hike with my husband. We had our 2 dogs, and we're hiking. We're enjoying this beautiful spring day. The sun was out. It was absolutely glorious. What a wonderful day. And all of a sudden, whoop, whoop, whoop. What the F-bomb was that? I whooped. And our 2 dogs immediately turned. Our shepherd was so concerned about me. He beelined it over and was like, oh my gosh, are you okay? You okay? He's booping me quite a bit of times. I'm like, yeah, I'm okay. But when this happened to me, I turned around and I fully expected to see some little gray alien with a freaking anal probe or somebody with a taser gun or something. Like, I felt like I got tasered right in my dirt raisin. Okay? It was unbelievable. And it was quick. This is like a hot flash. This was a quick flash in the pan. This was not a 10-minute event. Okay? And that's the other thing. We say hot flashes. It's not a flash. Mine lasts for 10 minutes. Okay? And I'm quite worried I'm going to spontaneously combust at one point. So yeah, that pudendal nerve, it flips out when estrogen levels are lowered, and you can experience the occasional neurological disruption. But honestly, I think our textbooks, we need to be better about this. Language is so important, right? So our textbooks aren't going to be written like, you're going to experience an electroshock right in the middle of your anus, and you're going to wonder where the gremlin is. Like, how did that happen? We don't write that in textbooks. And especially like men just don't even understand. And I have to give it to my husband, man. Like, he has been amazing. And maybe it's because we met later in our lives, right? I didn't meet my husband until I was 40, and he was already in his early 50s. He had been with a partner who was in the beginnings of perimenopause when they split up. And so he had had a small sampling of what could happen to a woman. And he's been amazing. When I was going through one of my worst times, about maybe last year, he went out and bought a magazine, like a very popular magazine. This woman puts out this magazine. She's extremely popular. And she had this entire magazine that month was devoted to menopause. And he bought me that magazine. Not only did he buy it for me, he read it first. He read it and then gave it to me so that I could read it, I could absorb it, and I could learn from it. But my point is, my husband is actually making lots of efforts to understand what's going on with me right now, which is amazing and very lovely, and a complete opposite reaction to, I think, most of the people his age. You know, my husband is in his 60s now. I'm in my 50s. And a couple of years ago, we were at this house and we were having a sit-down dinner with a bunch of people who are in and around my husband's age. Okay, so like I'm 10 years younger, and the women at this table, they were all in the middle of menopause. Okay, so the oven has been on, you know, we're at this person's house and they've been cooking all day, right, for this party. And, you know, we're all there, you know, we're all drinking a little bit of wine. We're having a good time. We're sitting down to eat now. And I notice the woman kitty corner to me. She's, you know, I think she was 52 at the time. And she's starting to have a hot flash, and I can see it. Right? Her chest is starting to flush. She's getting a little bit red in her neck. Then it's creeping up her face. Now her whole face is red, and I can see sweat starting to appear on her upper lip and at her hairline. And, you know, I was working in healthcare at this point. I'd treated many women who had hot flashes in our treatment. So I had recognized this. And I said to her husband, who was sitting next to her and closest to the patio door, I said to this woman's husband, "Hey, would you mind getting up and opening that patio door? I think your wife could really use some air right now." And he's like, "Oh, well, I'm fine." And I said, "Yeah, I know you're fine. But if you wouldn't mind opening up the door, I think that'd be great." And now this woman is really in it. And I having had several hot flashes of myself now, I completely know what has gone on. She had that initial surge of a little bit of heat and thinks, maybe this one's going to be 30 seconds. Maybe this one's just going to be like a quick, like super flash and that's it. But maybe she's more like me. In fact, she is a little more like me, where hot flashes last somewhere between 1.5 to 3 whole minutes. And for that time, it is a gradual feeling of heat coming up my body. And then it's just like my temperature keeps getting pushed up and up and up and up until I literally think, well, I might spontaneously combust. but I never do. I haven't so far. But anyway, this poor woman, so it's getting a little bit worse for her. So this man reluctantly gets up and opens up the door. And I said something like, I was just trying to empathize with this woman. And I said something like, you know, do you often get hot flashes? And did you know that maybe toning down your alcohol intake can actually help with the hot flashes? Because once we have alcohol in our system, it monkeys with our temperature control. And that's already wonky during menopause. So if you drink a little bit less, or if you stop drinking alcohol altogether, it does seem to help with the hot flashes, with managing the hot flashes. So we were having this conversation. And so I mentioned hot flash and menopause in the one sentence. And this woman's husband freaks out. "Well, I don't want to talk about menopause. Why are you bringing this up?" And you're like, oh my gosh, this is your wife. And she is going through this. This is literally happening like right in front of our faces right now. She's having a menopause symptom. And so I said to him, like, why wouldn't you want to open up the door? Why wouldn't you want to talk about this? You know, I'm trying to appeal to this older man, right? And I said, have you ever heard of G.I. Joe? And he's like, yeah, I heard of G.I. Joe. I'm like, yeah, knowing's half the battle. That's what G.I. Joe taught me when I was a kid. Knowing is half the battle. So as a partner to a person who is going to be going through a crazy hormone fluctuation, it behooves you. It does. It is a good idea to prepare yourself with some knowledge. In particular, because the partner going through this, you can have textbook knowledge like me. I had the textbook knowledge. You could experience some neurological disruptions. But it's a whole lot different than actually experiencing it. And when you're in it, you're not rational. I can tell you that. There's also a symptom of menopause that probably affects a lot more women than are ever diagnosed with it, or that ever seek professional help with it. But there is a sneaky little psychological symptom that comes along with this, and it's called menopausal psychosis. And this shouldn't be surprising to people, because our hormones dictate our moods, right? We already know that about women, right? PMS, premenstrual syndrome, when our hormones are going all haywire, and it literally affects our moods and how we feel emotionally and mentally, right? It can give us brain fog. We forget a lot more things. Like, there's all sorts of changes that happen during hormone fluctuations. And when it is going on to the extreme level that happens during menopause, so it's not just like a little monthly doodly-doo up and down, up and down. This is a crazy spike up, drop down, spike up, drop, 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 down, 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 down. And it can really affect the chemical makeup of your brain. It affects your moods. Depression often comes along with menopause because of the way our limbic system is attached to our hormones. And it can be really challenging. I definitely have experienced massive amounts of depression and all sorts of other stuff that's going on with menopause. So this is part of Fl'AwesomeBlossom. We are going to be talking about some of these things. And I promised you Care Bears, but I think we're going to have to get to that next time. But I want you to know that that feeling of electricity, right? Remember I talked about, we talked about the cattle prod right up the anus. That is definitely an electric signal. So we are electric beings. Okay? How do our bodies move? Or our bodies are moving through a series of muscles that acts as pulleys and levers across our skeletal system. And how we get our muscles to move is that a nerve fiber sends electric signals to the nerve. From our brains, neurological signals come down our spinal column, outward to the neural fibers. We have an electrochemical response that involves calcium ions and a bunch of other things. But it is definitely an electrochemical response. That's how we move our bodies. So we are electric. At rest, when you're laying in bed, right before you're getting up from your sleep, at rest, your body has enough electricity in it to power a 100-watt light bulb. Yeah. So even at rest, you are enough to light up a room. All right? Now imagine you can light up your 100 watts of light. P.S. I want to talk about a light bulb for 1 second. Do you know about the Centennial Light in Livermore, California? This light bulb has a carbon filament, and it was installed in a fire department in 1901. It is the year 2025, and it is still being able to light to be lit. At the beginning, yes, it was 60 watts, and that's significant glow. And now it's down to 4 watts. It's like a night light. But the point is, this thing has lasted. It has lasted 100 years. Like, that's even more than that, because it was installed in 1901, and it is 2025 right now. All right. But I'm bringing this up. I'm bringing the light bulb up. The Livermore one, because I just think that's amazing. And P.S., like, if that's still going with that carbon filament, like, Anyway, well, let's not talk about built-in obsolescence, which started with the light bulb people. Anyway, I want you to get on board with the fact that our bodies are electric. We have a body electric. Maybe I will read that Walt Whitman poem in a different post. But get on board with that because that's true. It's a true factoid of your body. We have an electromagnetic field as well. Yeah, that's right. EMF. Whoa, you're unbelievable. That's not true. Totally believable. But if you are a child of the 70s like me, and maybe you remember that song from EMF. But EMF actually stands for electromagnetic field, and our bodies have this. And that's going to segue us into Care Bears for next time. All right. But in the meantime, until next time, I hope that you are out there living your life in full Fl'Awesome.